So the United States needs to open the door to greater collaboration with Europe. However, we argue in this paper that it should do so not by bringing NATO to the Indo-Pacific, but by bringing Indo-Pacific partners to NATO, and that the EU itself should begin to play a stronger role on the military side in the Indo-Pacific as well, perhaps by coordinating a naval mission. Hi, I'm Max Bergmann, Director of the Europe, Russia, and Eurasia Program and the Stewart Center at CSIS, and I'm here to talk about my recent report with Christopher B. Johnston, Europe's security role in the Indo-Pacific. From the very beginning of the Biden administration, in fact, when Secretary of State Tony Blinken went to NATO in March of 2021, he mentioned China more than 10 times in his remarks and Russia less than 5. The administration has been asking the Europeans to focus more on the growing threat posed by China to its allies in the Indo-Pacific. And so this paper seeks to ask the question, but what are we actually asking the Europeans to do? What do we want the Europeans to do militarily in the Indo-Pacific? And our answer to this question is that, especially after Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the fact that that war doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon, and also that the threat from Russia doesn't look like it's going to abate anytime soon, that Europe really needs to focus militarily on Europe. It needs to focus on itself. It needs to focus on deterring Russia, in part because the challenge militarily posed by China to the United States and its allies in the Indo-Pacific is so significant that will require the United States to focus a lot of its energies and a lot of its resources and potentially a lot of the assets that we currently have in Europe, potentially in the Indo-Pacific. So that means essentially somewhat of a division of labor between Europe and the United States, where Europe focuses more on the threat posed by Russia and the U.S. does more to focus on the threat posed by China. But that does not mean that we sort of set and forget Europe and that Europe has no role to play. The naval missions that Europe has conducted in the Indo-Pacific, demonstrating the importance of the law of the sea, demonstrating the importance of freedom of navigation, we think will continue to play an important role. And additionally, Europe does have significant military assets that we tend to forget about, particularly the UK and France. These will all continue to play an important role. One additional role that the Europeans could play that could be particularly important for the United States is on the defense industrial side. We have done war games here at CSIS that demonstrate that the United States very quickly would run out of long-range precision-guided munitions in a war with China. Now, part of what we should do is we need to expand our own defense industrial production, but Europe itself is building up its own defense industrial production, and we should make sure that the United States, as well as European countries, can use each other's munitions on each other's platforms, so that there's essentially a transatlantic defense industrial base that can be relied upon in the event of conflict. And so we point to NATO's role in creating standardization of munitions and other weaponry as being really critical and something that we should maybe extend out to our Indo-Pacific partners as well. And also, we don't know how the threat posed by Russia will evolve. So the United States needs to open the door to greater collaboration with Europe. However, we argue in this paper that it should do so not by bringing NATO to the Indo-Pacific, but by bringing Indo-Pacific partners to NATO, and that the EU itself should begin to play a stronger role on the military side in the Indo-Pacific as well, perhaps by coordinating a naval mission. One thing that I think makes this paper somewhat unique is that this isn't just me, a Europe hand, writing about what Europe's role is, but this paper was done in conjunction with my colleague Chris Johnston, who's one of the foremost Asia hands in town. And we really brought together Europe and Asia experts to figure out what is the role? What is the role for Europe? Not just tapping into Europeans providing insight, but also tapping into Asian experts about what Europe's role should be in the Indo-Pacific. To read the full report, Europe's security role in the Indo-Pacific, please go to csis.org.